Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale MCU figure unboxing and review. Today, we're taking a look at the Artisan version of God Loki. The question is this the best Loki yet, or is this just Tom Hiddleston in a dressing gown and slippers? That's what we're here to find out. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. I've popped a link to their site in the description, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you decide to buy from them. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. If you're heading down that way, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as brand new Marvel content goes live. I hate to sound negative right off the bat. Is this really a DX, Hot Toys? What makes a DX in 2025? One head sculpt, one outfit option, no diorama display base, no light up effects. You get some sculpted plastic ones and some hands, a chair, a diamond base, and a cardboard backdrop, but that's it. Doesn't feel very DXy to me. Let me know what you think of that down in the comments. As for the box art, at least the box itself is a true DX box. Nice thick sturdy cardboard, metallic printing all over it, and I love this image of Tom Hiddleston in costume with his hand outstretched and the strands of time just surrounding him. Metallic gold foil Loki show logo, then his name down the bottom. This video is brought to you by JustinsCollection.shop, the home of the figure first aid kit, as well as other accessories to help your collection be the best it can be. The first aid kit contains multiple tools to help you with maintenance, styling rooted hair, and much more. We also sell crotch grabbers, soft rubber tips to prevent damage, and they're compatible with most modern Hot Toys base molds. Acrylic risers come in multi-packs. They're optically clear, thick and sturdy, and stackable. Check out the link to JustinsCollection.shop in the description. Oh, and that image from the front cover does spill over the edge to the side of the box, and the green and gold color scheme, perfect for Loki. But this has always been one of my favorite pieces of promo art from the Loki show. Miss minutes, but then the different versions of Loki walking around the clock face, showing the span of time, ending with God Loki, before we kick back to the start with Prisoner TVA Loki, I guess. Below that, we've got warnings, legal information, and Hot Toy store locations. This box works like all of the other modern DX boxes. You slide out the inner box from this outer cardboard sleeve. For me, the unboxing experience, especially on an Artisan DX, very important. And when you open the box and you're greeted by this, the back of the cardboard backdrop covered in plastic, and it's covering two images of the prototype version of God Loki, not super exciting, but this is foam backed just to protect what's underneath it. I dig this shot of Miss Minutes looking all kinds of cheeky, maybe an intentional choice considering Loki is a trickster after all. First in-hand impressions for God Loki's headless body, we'll look at the head sculpt a little bit later. So far so good. I'm feeling a lot of wires with the outfit, there's plenty of gold accents, they're subtle but they're there, and there's a decent amount of weight to this, not overly heavy but doesn't feel cheap either. What we're going to do now is get all of God Loki's accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. See what I mean? What is DX here? It's the throne, maybe, or the strands of time, or the stupid diamond display base. Whatever it is that made Hot Toys call this a DX, I'm simply not seeing it. Starting off with the display base first, I'm okay with the use of the diamond base with God Loki because he's a centerpiece, he comes with a throne, and it looks like it's sort of melting into the floor with the gold printing on the base itself. There's also a textured finish to this top platform. The reason why I don't like these traditionally is there's a point at the back, point on either side. Makes it a little tricky to display. It requires a lot of depth and width. You can't have other figure bases slotted up alongside this. I'm going to have Loki in his own section of the display, so I think this is going to work for him. The cardboard backdrop, we'll talk about that later. The nameplate, though, not a huge fan. The font is so boring. Like they could have added some logos or some embellishments, missed minutes, something to spruce up the look of this extremely simple nameplate. Then around the back, a mini stubby flight pole and a spring-loaded waist clamp. So I've got my complaints with the base, not the throne. This thing is glorious. It's burdened with glorious purpose. I am so sorry. The shine on it, it's lustrous, it's reflective, it's heavy. There's no seams. Well, there's seams underneath, but nowhere else. Nothing to take away from the look of this. The molten metal effect with the oozing bits and the drippy pieces at the bottom. I cannot get enough of this throne. And when you pop it on the base, that just completes the look, making it look like it's forming out of or into the flooring. It's not really an accessory, it's more so part of his look, but it is removable. It's also packaged separately in the box. There's gold veining on it, making it look a little delicate and intricate, more ornate. Some copper shading, some gold shading. There's more going on with this crown than I expected there to be. And some foam padding front and back on the inside, so hopefully this doesn't scratch up the head sculpt when we install it later. So the strands of time, they're sizable, translucent green plastic. There's darker sections, really dark sections, lighter spots, and they slot in top and bottom to the gripping hands, locking them in place. Not the most difficult thing to install. You can also adjust the way they sit in the hands once you've got them in there. But these might just be my favorite of the effect pieces. Normal hands on the inside with crazy detail, the wrinkling, the skin texture, they look so real. And translucent plastic on the outside, these are the best of both worlds. But if you want something more ethereal, you've got full translucent hands with the flame bits on the back of them. 2 of these and 2 of these. And then for the rest of the hands, don't get me wrong, they are not in art quality, but they are getting better and better with their hands. They've slimmed down the fingers. They've added more wrinkling, especially on the knuckles. They're painting the cuticles now. The vein work is convincing. And they've hollowed out the bottoms, so when you plug them onto the wrist pegs, they sit further in, making the gap, the visible wrist pegs, less noticeable. So these relaxed open palm hands were already installed on him right out of the box. Splayed out finger open palm ones, slightly less splayed out finger open palm hands, and 2 closed fists. What we're going to do now is get God Loki himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that for now. Stay tuned towards the end of the video. That's when we do some sick poses, bust out the dynamic moving camera. It will be worth it, I promise. But at this very moment, regal is the word that comes to mind. And I've not even popped the crown on yet. I cannot wait to do that. But the outfit, he's so engulfed in all of this green that it could have come across as though he was swimming in a bunch of green fabric. But there's wires in just the right places. It's structured enough around the torso, the arms, the pants are form-fitting where they need to be, that it just works. This outfit, I wrote off in the show as too simple. In 1/6 scale, I am changing my mind very quickly about it. It is becoming one of my favorite looks for Loki in the MCU, and that's not thanks to the show, it's thanks to this piece. Then, the head sculpt. They were firing on all cylinders when they put this head sculpt together. Is it as good as the prototype? Maybe not. Is the rooted hair necessary? Also, maybe not. But there is so much to love about the sculpts that I really don't think you're going to be disappointed if you've got this guy on the way. Up close and personal, kicking things off with Loki's head sculpt not on the body yet, still inside its shipping container. The reason why they do this, package head sculpt separately with Artisan figures, is just to protect the hairstyle in transit, and so far it looks like it's worked. I'm already satisfied with the way my Loki's hair is styled. I've got thoughts on the likeness and the moving eyes and how you access the moving eyes and the hairline, especially the hairline. We'll get to all of that. The little base, it's got this mirrored undersection showing you the bottom of the curls and the nameplate up front. Completely unnecessary. Nobody's ever going to see this again after they unbox the figure, but just adds to the unboxing experience, and I'm here for it. To remove the sculpt from the base, you need to rotate it all the way around. Then you can pop it off. I reckon it's time to install this on the body, then we can discuss. Dude, this head sculpt from almost every angle is incredible. That is Tom Hiddleston. That is Loki. From right there, Tom. Front on, Tom. Other side, also him. The skin texture is so fine. It's sculpted and painted. You can feel it. You can feel the sculpted pores as you run your fingers across the surface of the sculpt. The line work on the lips, the crow's feet. Up here on the forehead, it's slightly bumpy. You can see some veins sculpted to look like they're underneath the skin. And the eyes. This is our first Loki head sculpt with moving eyes, and I am dying to move them around to see what they do for the expression built into this sculpt. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the hairline. It's pretty high up, making his forehead look quite large. When you pop the crown on, that'll fix that issue, I believe. And the little strands that you can see, they're not rooted hair, that's sculpted hair. They've tried their best to blend the sculpted hairline in with the rooted hair by gluing some strands of real wool over the top of the sculpted detail work. It hasn't worked perfectly. They're getting better and better with their hairlines, but this is not an in-art quality rooted hair job. They're still working their way up to that. Especially on this side, a little bit of visible glue right there. There's a certain amount of shine to the hair, and like I said, from a distance, it doesn't bother me. But if it bothers you, I fully understand the price point that these figures are at. They really should be flawless. The interesting thing about the way they've done Loki's hair is it almost feels kind of sculpted. How it's slicked back over the top, it's tight to the scalp, then even the curls, they're really stiff and they don't want to move around, which is a good thing because to move the eyes, you need to remove this stupid back hair panel. You need to wedge your finger underneath all of this hair, then remove this. I'm just going to leave it off because you can't even tell that it's not there. And now I've got access to the moving eyes, well, sort of, underneath this hair. And I'm not going to mess it up every time I want to move them around by removing that stupid hair panel. Look, everyone's got their favorite Loki sculpt. For some people, it's President Loki because of the smirk. For others, it's this TVA Loki sculpt. It has some of the best sculpted hair I've ever seen, a very strong likeness to Tom. But the God Loki sculpt, I just think is better. The likeness is stronger, the jawline is narrower, the eyes are the correct color, the hair looks better to me, especially the hairline, and you can move the eyes around because it's a modern 2025 Hot Toy sculpt with moving eyes. I was thinking about maybe popping this sculpt on the Artisan Loki body, but the neck connector is completely different to this old school style one, so unless you do some modding and remove the clear plastic piece inside the neck area on Artisan Loki, simply not possible. So I like the sculpt, it's well detailed, he looks a little bit younger. They were kinder to Tom than maybe they should have been, less wrinkles, less skin texture and detail, but it doesn't take away from that incredible likeness. To install the crown, it's so freaking straightforward, magnetic, pops on, sits in place. But the instructions specifically show it sitting a lot lower than this. I've tried to push it down further, it doesn't really want to do that. You can see the top of his hairline poking out from the top of the crown, so it's not the end of the world, but to be fully accurate, it's meant to sit down a lot lower than this. You really need to have the crown on. It just completes the look. You can display him without it, but then his forehead looks a little bit too big and he lacks presence, but with the crown on, his presence is undeniable. I usually manage to move the eyes around with just my finger because I don't like grabbing the tool. It's cumbersome to use, especially around rooted hair. It's not possible this time. The opening is so tight, even my pinky wouldn't fit inside the head sculpt. So to move the eyes around, you will need to use the tool. But I mean, come on. Look at that head sculpt. With some side eye, with some shadow off to this side of the sculpt, accentuating how sharp his features are, this head sculpt looks like $1,000,000. I said it before, I'll say it again. This is very quickly becoming my new favorite Tom Hiddleston Loki sculpt. Just to show you what it looks like when you move the eyes around, there's a decent range of motion with each of the eyeballs. They are independently articulated, and while lining them up can be tricky, I found if you look at the head sculpt from the bottom, that makes it a bit easier to do it. Okay, so turns out I was lying, not intentionally, but this head sculpt is compatible with this body. It's properly connected to the neck connector. When you remove the God Loki head sculpt, it brings the clear plastic neck connector along with it, making this possible. I'm not a huge fan of the way this looks, but at least now you know it's a possibility if you had this in mind. But this, unfortunately, really isn't possible. The neck connector sits too low inside the sculpt. You'd like it to maybe be around there, but without some modding or an additional neck connector to make that happen, it just doesn't work. Even the collar isn't tight enough around the neck to keep this in place. That's okay, I wasn't planning on doing head swaps anyway. Like I said, at least now you know it is sort of possible. I could talk about that head sculpt all day, but it's time to move on to the body and the outfit. There's not much I can say about the body because the outfit, while it's form-fitting for the torso, it's baggy almost everywhere else. Up top for the collar, the sleeves, the pants. It does a decent enough job of looking proportionate, and I've got no complaints about articulation. You'll see what I mean in the articulation segment. Let me just say that the outfit is nowhere near as boring as I was worried it would be. I thought the head sculpt would do all of the heavy lifting. It does a lot of it, but the outfit also is no slouch. This weaved section, making it look like he's got gauntlets on, how it ends in a point just on his hands there. The different colors of green they've gone with, the different textures and weaves and thicknesses of fabric, and we've got wires in all the right places, even up here. For the gold area for this collar, that is wired. I did not notice this in the show, but there's a gradient effect to the outer robes. Lighter at the bottom, darker at the top. While it comes across unruly, there's plenty of wires in it, you can shape it. The only complaint I have is I wish there was a wire along the bottom. It's perfectly set up for that with this stitched edge, but for some reason they decided not to do it. You could always technically remove it. There's a magnet closure underneath his arm, so you can split this and then slide it off if you remove the head sculpt. I think it would be doing this outfit a disservice to take it off because it adds a lot of flow and visual interest to the front of Loki. Then we've got the little gold dots on the outer robes and this glittery gold section around the base of the collar. But it's all the different shades of green, dark green, slightly lighter but still darker than the outer robes, which are brighter at the bottom, then that matches the color of the trousers. The asymmetrical sash with the creases and folds on it just sits off to one side like that. The trousers, they're tighter at the bottom, but they split at the ankles. I'm sure that's screen accurate, but in 1/6 scale, I like to rotate them so that sits around the back because Hot Toys have gone to all of this effort to make the ankles look as good as possible, as seamless as possible. And when you've got that split visible, it just showcases that ugly ankle peg. But speaking of pegs, the wrist pegs have screws in them. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but also like I said in the accessory segment, the hands cup the middle section of the wrist pegs, minimizing the gap between the base of the forearm and the start of the hands. Sorry about that little detour. The loafers. Loki's god loafers. They look like separate shoes over his feet. There's an actual gap, some depth there. They stick out around the front. Then the ankles bulge out on the sides. There's some skin texture there. Heaps of leather grain. This, what would be tied up section at the front. Stitching around the base. And some fully sculpted tread. For a quick side-by-side comparison, on the left, God Loki. On the right, TVA Loki. I like the juxtaposition between these two. We've got form-fitting, really structured, tight tailoring on the right, and sculpted hair. The outfit shows off the proportions, whereas on the left, rooted hair, moving eyes, and the flowing robes in green and gold. They're the complete opposites of one another, but they still work together on the same shelf. With that being said, if you only have space for one Loki in the collection, and you want the most definitive, future-proof look for him, it's gotta be God Loki. He's gonna be wearing this outfit quite likely in Avengers Doomsday. He'll be relevant for much longer than the TVA one. I don't think Loki's ever going to look like the figure on the right again in the MCU. I might be wrong in saying that, but at this very moment, if I was picking between them, I'd go God Loki. Going over articulation, full fabric, flowy outfit, I'm expecting great things from God Loki, starting off with his head sculpt, ball joint at the base of the single piece sculpted neck. Looking all the way forward, looking all the way back, like that is seriously a crazy range of motion. Swivel and tons of pivot side to side. Arms completely flush down by his sides, going up to there, forward and back on soft ratchets. Butterfly at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow going way past 90, then for his wrist pegs, a hinge and swivel. Torso is padded, but only a little bit, crunching forward to there on a midsection and waist joint, going back, less than forward, swivel, and some pivot side to side. Legs will go forward to there. You can adjust the trousers for more range if you need it, for a sitting pose, for example. Going out to there, the low crotch for the trousers does limit range a little. Swivel at the upper thigh. Double bend at the knee on soft ratchets, going past 90. Then a hinge and swivel for the ankles, good for forward and back and rotation, as well as some tilt because they are plugged into the feet at an angle. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is so bloody annoying. To access the moving eyes, you need to mess around with the hair at the back, remove that panel, you can see the divot where you'd wedge your fingernail underneath it to take it off, then you can move the eyes. After that, pop it right back on. Want to do it again, you need to go through the whole process again. Hot Toys, surely there's a better solution to moving eyes around with rooted hair figures than this. The second annoying thing isn't really their fault, it more falls on the costume designers, the production designers, but see this split at the bottom of the trousers? It does this figure no favors. They've gone to all of this effort to sculpt his feet a little bit higher underneath the slippers so that the ankle just covers up more of that ugly hinge and swivel joint and minimizes the gap between the bottom of the leg and the start of the feet. But then the split just ruins all of that effort by showing off that gap anyway. The third annoying thing is super minor, not a deal breaker. Probably won't even factor in for you, I would imagine. The font on the nameplate is so boring. Why didn't they go with the show logo or something just a little bit more visually interesting than this? The first cool thing is Loki's throne. This thing is beautiful. The sculpt work, how it looks like it's oozing and melting, these little drippy bits at the bottom, it's completely seamless, no ugly seams anywhere, and very shiny. The gold paint they've gone with could have come across cheap, but it's darker at the bottom, brighter at the top. They've nailed it. They also nailed these. The second cool thing, the effect pieces. The green shading on the knuckles for the hands gripping onto the strands of time. The translucent plastic. These ones with the hands fully sculpted and painted underneath the translucent plastic. These have to be the best effect pieces I've ever seen from them. The third cool thing, this is why I love my Hot Toys figures, because we get to appreciate the subtleties of this costume design in a way that we never could on screen. I didn't notice the lighter green at the bottom versus the darker green at the top. That cannot have been easy to recreate in 1/6 scale. And the flowing robes, there's so many wires throughout, you can have a ton of fun posing this piece. Not just the figure himself, but the outfit elements as well. Wrapping up on God Loki, a figure I wasn't super keen on, but I knew I had to have him because he was going to play an important role in Avengers Doomsday. And it's an Artisan Loki, our first one, and it's our first Loki with moving eyes. Then we get the crown, the wires in the outfit, the throne, the effect pieces, the strands of time. As I dissect him, there's more and more to love about this piece. At the end of the video, I may have started off not being sure, but I am sure now. This Loki is awesome. He's hands down my favorite Loki in the collection, and the fact that his outfit has no pleather on it, it's full fabric, you can pose the shit out of him. Will I be doing that or popping him in the throne? In the throne, of course, but the option is there. You can do whatever you want in terms of dynamic posing, and you get enough effect pieces to sell those dynamic poses. Plus the wires in the outfit, they will help you as well. So long story short, if you're on the fence, just hop off. Cop this Loki and you can thank me later. Now, I've popped a link to Pop Collectibles in the description, that's where I got mine from, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you decide to buy from them. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. If you're heading down that way, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.